My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Text after text, call after call, all from the same people who used to wish me happy birthday and send me funny memes. Except now every single message had the same tone: disappointment, anger, accusations. My mom said I was selfish. My dad told me I'd regret this. My sister called me heartless. Even my grandmother, who usually stayed out of family drama, sent me a message saying she was ashamed of me. All because I said two letters, N and O. Let me take you back to where this nightmare started. It was a Tuesday evening, and I was sitting on my couch after a long day at work when my brother Marcus called me. We'd always been close growing up, the kind of siblings who had each other's backs through thick and thin. He was 3 years younger than me, always the charmer of the family, the one who could talk his way into or out of anything. When I answered, he sounded excited, almost giddy. He told me he'd found his dream truck, a brand new Ford F-150, fully loaded with every bell and whistle you could imagine. Leather seats, the best sound system, upgraded suspension, the works. He went on and on about the metallic blue paint, the chrome detailing, how it would be perfect for his contracting work. The price tag, $55,000. I nearly choked on my coffee when he said that number. Now, I need to give you some context about my financial situation versus Marcus's. I'm 32 years old, and I've spent the last decade building my career in accounting. I live modestly in a small 2-bedroom apartment, drive a 7-year-old Honda Civic, and pack my lunch 4 days a week. I've been saving aggressively, paying off my student loans, building an emergency fund. I'm not rich by any means, but I'm stable. I have a credit score in the 770s, no major debts, and a growing retirement account. Marcus, on the other hand, has always lived differently. He's 29 and works in construction, which can pay well, but his income fluctuates wildly depending on whether he's got contracts lined up. Some months he makes great money, other months barely anything. He currently rents a room in a friend's house, has 2 credit cards that are maxed out, and from what I knew, his credit score was somewhere in the low 500s. He'd also filed for bankruptcy 3 years ago after a failed business venture, where he tried to flip houses without really knowing what he was doing. So when Marcus started talking about this $55,000 truck, I already felt my stomach tightening. Then came the question I was dreading. He asked if I would co-sign the loan with him. He explained that the dealership had already run his credit and denied him for the full amount he needed. They said with a co-signer who had good credit, he could get approved within 24 hours. He promised he'd make every single payment on time, that I wouldn't have to worry about a thing, that this was just a formality. I didn't answer right away. I told him I needed to think about it. He seemed hurt by that, saying he thought I'd jump at the chance to help him out, that family was supposed to support each other. That night I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, going over the scenarios in my head. I knew what co-signing meant. It meant I would be equally responsible for that loan. If Marcus missed even one payment, it would hit my credit report. If he defaulted, the lender would come after me for the full amount. I'd be on the hook for $55,000 plus interest. The next morning, I did what any responsible person would do. I called my financial advisor. She'd helped me plan my budget and retirement strategy for the past 5 years. When I explained the situation, there was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then she said something I'll never forget. Co-signing a loan is essentially taking out a loan yourself, except you have zero control over whether the payments get made. She pulled up some statistics for me. According to the Federal Trade Commission, about 1 in 4 co-signers ends up having to pay back some or all of the loan. She asked me point-blank if I was prepared to make 78 monthly payments of around $800 each if Marcus couldn't. $800 a month. That was more than half my rent. I thought about my savings goals, my plans to eventually buy a small house, my emergency fund that I'd worked so hard to build. I thought about how one missed payment from Marcus could drop my credit score by 100 points, how it could affect my ability to get a mortgage when I was ready. But then I thought about my brother. I remembered when we were kids and he stood up for me against bullies in middle school. I remembered when our parents were going through a rough patch financially, and we shared a bedroom for 2 years, staying up late talking about our dreams. I remembered how he helped me move into my first apartment, carrying boxes up 3 flights of stairs in the summer heat without complaint. I decided to have an honest conversation with him. I called Marcus and asked him to meet me for coffee. We sat down at our usual spot, and I came prepared with questions. I asked him about his monthly income, his expenses, his debt situation. At first, he got defensive, asking why I was interrogating him like he was applying for a job. I explained that if I was going to be responsible for this loan, I needed to understand his full financial picture. Reluctantly, he started opening up. His monthly income averaged around $4,500, but it varied wildly. Some months he made $7,000, other months only $3,000. His monthly expenses were already around $4,000 when you factored in his rent, utilities, car insurance, phone, food, and minimum payments on his credit cards. He also mentioned he was trying to save up to move into his own place. When I pointed out that adding an $800 truck payment would leave him with almost nothing left over in an average month, he insisted he'd pick up extra jobs, that he'd make it work. Then I asked him why he needed a $55,000 truck. His current vehicle, a 10-year-old Toyota Tacoma, was still running fine. He said he needed something more professional-looking to impress clients, something more reliable for hauling equipment. I suggested looking at used trucks in the $20,000 to $30,000 range, something he might be able to finance on his own or save up for with a smaller loan. He got upset, saying I was trying to talk him out of his dream, that I didn't believe in him. That's when I made my decision. I told Marcus I loved him, but I couldn't co-sign the loan. I explained that it wasn't about trust or belief in him, but about protecting my own financial future. I told him that if something unexpected happened, if he got injured on a job site or lost a major contract, he might not be able to make the payments, and I couldn't afford to take on that debt. I offered to help him in other ways, creating a budget, finding a good used truck, even lending him a couple $1,000s if he found something more affordable. The look on his face broke my heart. He stared at me like I just betrayed him in the worst possible way. He said he couldn't believe his own brother wouldn't help him when he needed it most. He told me he'd never ask me for anything again and walked out of the coffee shop without another word. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Within hours, my phone started blowing up. Marcus had gone straight to our parents and told them I'd refused to help him. But apparently, the story I got wasn't the story they heard. According to my mom's tearful phone call, Marcus told them he needed a reliable work truck because his current one was breaking down constantly and costing him thousands in repairs. He said he'd found an affordable option and just needed someone to co-sign because of one mistake from his past. He made it sound like I was refusing to help him over some minor technicality. My parents were furious with me. My dad called me ungrateful, reminding me of all the times they'd helped me out over the years. My mom said she didn't raise me to turn my back on family. When I tried to explain the real situation, the actual cost of the truck, Marcus's financial instability, the risk involved, they didn't want to hear it. They said I was making excuses, that I was being selfish with my good credit score, that Marcus had promised them he'd make every payment. Then my sister got involved. She called me crying, saying that Marcus had been so excited about this truck and now I'd crushed his dreams. She said that if she had good enough credit, she'd co-sign in a heartbeat. I pointed out that there was a reason her credit wasn't good enough, that maybe that should tell us all something about the wisdom of this purchase. She called me condescending and hung up on me. The family group chat, which was usually filled with funny videos and dinner plans, became a war zone. My aunt chimed in saying that in our culture, family always helps family no matter what. My uncle said I'd been spending too much time focused on money and not enough on relationships. My cousin posted a long message about how disappointed she was in me, how she thought I was different from people who valued dollars over people. Every single day brought new attacks. My grandmother, who I'd always been close to, sent me a message saying she was praying for my heart to soften. That one hurt the most. Here was this woman who'd snuck me cookies when I was grounded as a kid, who'd taught me to bake bread, who'd always told me she was proud of me, now acting like I'd committed some unforgivable sin. The silent treatment started about a week later. My birthday was coming up, something our family always made a big deal about. Every year we'd have dinner at my parents' house, everyone would come, we'd have cake, the whole celebration. This year nobody mentioned it. When I asked my mom about plans, she said coldly that she didn't think anyone was in the mood to celebrate given how I'd treated Marcus. My birthday came and went without a single call, text, or card from any of them. Family events suddenly didn't include me. My sister's engagement party, which I'd known about for months, I found out through a friend's social media post. I wasn't invited. Sunday dinners at my parents' house, a tradition we'd maintained for years, continued without me. My nephew's soccer game, where I'd never missed a match in 2 seasons, nobody told me when or where it was happening. The isolation was crushing. These weren't just random relatives. These were the people I'd spent every holiday with, who I'd called when I got my first big promotion, who I'd thought would always have my back. Now they'd all collectively decided I was the villain in this story. I started doubting myself. Maybe I was being too cautious. Maybe I should have just signed the papers and hoped for the best. Maybe I was putting money over family. I went to therapy to talk through what was happening. My therapist asked me a simple question. If a stranger asked you to co-sign a $55,000 loan for someone with bad credit and unstable income, would you do it? Of course not, I answered. Then why, she asked, should it be different just because you share DNA? She helped me understand that setting financial boundaries isn't cruel or selfish. It's self-preservation. She pointed out that if I'd co-signed and Marcus defaulted, I'd not only lose my savings and damage my credit, but I'd probably resent him for it, which would damage our relationship anyway. At least this way, I was being honest about my limitations, but knowing I'd made the right decision didn't make the loneliness any easier. Holidays were the worst. Thanksgiving came around, and for the first time in my life, I spent it alone in my apartment with a frozen turkey dinner. I could see on social media that the whole family had gathered at my parents' house, all smiling and laughing. Christmas was even harder. I'd always been the one who went overboard with presents for my nieces and nephews. This year, I didn't even know what to buy them because I'd been shut out of their lives. I tried reaching out individually to family members. I sent my mom flowers with a card saying I loved her and missed her. She never acknowledged receiving them. I texted my sister asking if we could meet for coffee and talk things through. She left me on read. I called my dad on his birthday and he answered, but the conversation was cold and brief. He said he appreciated the call, but he had to go. Marcus, meanwhile, seemed to be thriving in his role as the wronged party. I heard through a mutual friend that he'd told everyone I had plenty of money and was just being stingy. That I'd always thought I was better than everyone else because I had a college degree and a stable job. None of that was true, but the narrative had been set. The worst part was watching them all rally around Marcus. My parents ended up giving him $10,000 they'd been saving for a vacation. My aunt loaned him $5,000. Some cousins pitched in smaller amounts. With that money and a much higher interest rate from a subprime lender, Marcus did end up getting his truck. He posted pictures all over social media, thanking everyone who'd helped him achieve his dream, pointedly not including me in any of the posts. I wanted to feel vindicated to say I told you so, but mostly I just felt sad. Sad that my family had chosen sides so quickly. Sad that nobody had tried to understand my perspective. Sad that a truck had become more important than our relationships. Months went by. The silent treatment continued. I built a new life, one that didn't revolve around family dinners and group chats. I got closer to my friends, started new hobbies, focused on my career. I got promoted at work, and for the first time, my family wasn't the first people I called with good news. Then about 8 months after I'd refused to co-sign, I got a call from Marcus. Not a text, an actual phone call. My hands were shaking when I answered. He asked if we could talk in person. We met at the same coffee shop where I'd told him no. He looked tired, older somehow. He told me he was struggling to make the truck payments. Between the high interest rate and insurance on such an expensive vehicle, it was eating up most of his income. He'd had to take out a payday loan last month just to cover everything. He was drowning. He didn't ask for money. He didn't ask for anything, really. He just said he understood now why I'd said no. He said he wished he'd listened to me about getting something more affordable. He apologized for turning the family against me, for not considering how much risk I'd be taking on. We talked for hours that day, really talked like we hadn't in years. He told me he felt pressured to keep up appearances, to look successful, and the truck had seemed like a symbol of making it. I told him about the loneliness of being cut off from everyone, how much it had hurt. We both cried. We both apologized. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start. Slowly, very slowly, some family members started coming back around. Not all of them and not right away. But my sister called me one day saying she missed me. We met for lunch and talked through everything. She admitted she hadn't really understood what co-signing meant, that she'd just been caught up in the drama. My relationship with my parents is still strained. They've never fully apologized for cutting me off, though my mom did say she might have overreacted. We're working on rebuilding trust. Looking back, I don't regret my decision. I wish I'd handled some conversations differently, wish I'd been better at explaining my reasoning. But protecting my financial stability wasn't wrong. What I learned is that sometimes doing the right thing costs you more than money. Sometimes it costs you relationships, at least temporarily. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought, that I can survive being the bad guy in someone else's story. And I learned that real family, the people who truly love you, will eventually come back around when the dust settles.